It's Re-Up Alex.
Yo, what's up? It's B-Mo.
And this is the Re-Up Podcast. The 2010s, the 10s, I would say were my favorite time when it came to like music, art, culture, especially in DC. I don't know about other places, but the DMV had, for me, and it might be a very bold statement, we had, you know, people like Logic, you know, Shy Glizzy, Fat Trell.
Why was Logic your first example?
I say Logic because he's the most commercial now. If we're gonna talk, I'm not really, I'm not even gonna finish that sentence, but I'm just naming DMV pivotal things that were happening. But anyways, that was a pivotal time. I really think that was when we had a musical renaissance. We talked about this on the first episode, actually, where we basically broke down that, you know, that was a time when things were happening because the gangster rap side of things kind of started to taper off. People like Kanye and, you know, other rappers that were not making gangster centric. I keep saying it like, you know, that's what you said, but it's gangster rap and shit like that. Like trap music hadn't even started really yet. It wasn't really like out there as much as it is now.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a different time, man. I really think we're having a musical renaissance right now. In what are we in the mid 20s?
You think so?
I think so. We're on the cusp of it. I think that everything's so freeform. And like even, you know, what we're about to talk about with Phonk, like that's an example of how that would be a musical renaissance to me. Something new is being created or different things from the past are being blended with, you know, now or even the future. And yeah, I really think, I'm feeling it. I'm feeling that vibe, man. People be open right now. Everyone's going out. There's shows. There's too many shows even. It's great. Everyone's dropping music. Like, makes sense to me. What do you think, though?
I think we're in an artistic depression.
An artistic depression, the complete opposite.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's why I'm listening to you. I'm like, that's interesting that you think we're in a renaissance.
No, let me know.
But you say the opposite, but I think it's actually, I think it could, on a spectrum, if a spectrum is like circular, we're at the same point on the spectrum.
Yeah, exactly. Both of those things would be happening
at the same time.
Yeah,
I think there is and I've been trying to separate it from my age, but I feel like the removal of public art education dumbed down artistic appreciation for like 2 generations. And so when I say an artistic depression, what I mean is that the things that would have been considered art through technique are now in the same category as like visual art. So so what I can do is I can go to any one of the shows you just named just now, and I can hear your renaissance. I can hear that because there is a boom of people who do not practice the same function of art that I consider to be high functioning art within the music space. So what I can't go see is experimental jazz. What I can't go see is like classical samba fusion.
That's like the Louis Vuitton or even farther than that. So when it comes, you know what I mean? Like it's very inaccessible and
it's crazy
you
that
don't
you call
see
it
often.
Like Louis Vuitton, because when I think of the best era of music, and this makes me feel so old because I wasn't even born yet, I think about 1977. I was just listening to Earth, Wind & Fire. It just came on my random on the way up here, and I was like, fuck, this is crazy.
Yeah.
This is crazy. If somebody was to write this now, they would not be able to put it on the radio. If Earth, Wind & Fire were to come out right now, it would be so weird.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. It would be put in like visual art museum, Louis Vuitton. It'd be like, oh, frame this.
Yeah.
Not go make 100 of these. But think about a time where people were trying to replicate that. They were like, let's be another Earth, Wind & Fire.
Crazy.
Now, that's not the case.
That's just funny, man. It's interesting
So it's interesting that you say Renaissance and I say Depression because those moments meet at the exact same time.
Yeah. No, it's very true.
What's good? Yo, what's up, man? What's up?
My guy.
What's up, fellas? Chilling, brother. How you getting?
No, you're good. Yeah. Oh, shit. Okay. Ryan Celsius, it's been a month since the last time I saw you. The Shrimp Nose tour
is crazy. I'm gonna say that every time.
Yeah, man. How you feeling? What you up to?
I'm feeling great, man. I just came back from the Grammys and Grammy week.
Damn, he admit
sponsoring an event for the Grammys, and it went really well.
Sponsoring an event. So what? As Ryan Celsius, as what?
I own a software company called Vibe.
Oh.
AI video generation platform. My background, I'm a software engineer.
Okay.
Et cetera. And
I beg your pardon?
Yeah.
Software. Okay.
I do a lot of things.
What kind of software?
It's an AI video generation platform. So the elevator pitch is that we take your music or a song or even a podcast, to be honest, and we take that and then we translate that into the visuals.
Okay.
Right. For what does that look like? Right. And the idea is that ultimately I have this grand vision, not even a grand vision, it's inevitable in a very short period of time that we're entering a new age. Before was the streaming era, right? You go to Spotify, you go to YouTube, and really what you're doing, you're looking at a video that somebody created that exists on some server somewhere. It's just some file that somebody's playing. It's the MP3, you're just playing, the Kanye West track, I'm playing it. That's not going to be the future. The future is going to be, I want something, and you describe it, and it's generated in real time for you. And it's a new thing every single time you ask for it. That's what the future of entertainment and media is. It's not, I want to watch Game of Thrones. It's no. I want to watch something that's like Game of Thrones, but it's kind of like Walking Dead, but it's kind of like this, it's kind of like that.
So this is past Web3.
This is
it's far past Web3.
This is 2026, 2025, and we're on that path now.
That's like next year.
Yeah. It's soon, like relatively, but
is this technology past Web3 though? Is what, like, if you were to put it on, because like that's how you range and like scale where you're at.
Well, that's what people. Web3? That's what, when people talk about Web3, I think that really they don't even know what they're talking about.
They don't even know what they're talking about.
I wouldn't say it's to the level that it's a buzzword, but it's to the level that where low key.
Yeah,
but it's to the level of like where they just throw things in that bucket.
Mm-hmm. Like, it's a bucket. Yeah,
this AR thing. Let's call that Web3.
Yeah.
This is a different era, and this is as transformative as no internet, no streaming.
Damn.
This is that
no
next
internet.
thing. Yes. This is, I go to the library to look up something versus I can do a Google search. This will be that transformative, but it will happen much quicker than all that shit happened. And so in between there's a lot of money to be made. There's a lot of innovation to be made. I think people need to pay attention so that they can be a part of it and not be like, oh man, I wish I knew about this. Oh, I wish I knew about crypto. I wish I knew. People, everybody, you did, motherfucker. Like, it was there in front of your face. You did. You were there. Where were you? Like,
I remember when somebody told me that Bitcoin hit $110 and we were like, damn, that's too expensive.
Exactly.
I remember that day.
And
I'll never forget it. I know exactly where it was. It was on Route 1 at this apartment behind the McDonald's. On Route 1, that McDonald's this one there, the Michaels.
Yep.
Yeah, you know. Yeah. And I was in my boy's apartment, and they were blowing. I remember they were making hash. You remember when people were just finding out about oil, and they'd be like, "Oh, I'm about to get a bunch of shake, put it in a water bottle, and take a butane."
Goddamn.
So you take a butane, you take the butane, you poke a hole in the top of the water bottle, and then you put pantyhose. You cut a hole in the bottom of the water bottle, pantyhose over it, hot plate. Then you siphon the butane through all the weed onto the hot plate, and it makes some real hood.
Holy shit! I never.
That's what we were doing in fucking 2010 and 2009.
I did that glass pipe where you
same thing. But this is a ghetto ass way of doing that. Yeah.
Okay.
And someone said Bitcoin hit $110, and I was like, damn, that's expensive. Yeah, some Virginia shit, bro.
A couple years later,
some Virginia
1780.
Okay.
We came in hot, Vivo.
There's something that you said that has actually broken my mind that I can't get past.
I saw you freeze.
You said in the future, the relatively near future,
I would say, yeah.
Instead of artists, you will have generated content for you.
Well, I think the idea of an artist will change, and it already has changed, but it happened slow enough that people contextualize it. Like someone now thinks that a producer using Ableton is an artist versus, right? If that would happen like in the 90s, people would say, "Oh, you motherfuckers you're not using instruments, or you're not doing this and that. You're not even an artist." And you could go back to the Fruity Loops days where you're like, "Oh, you're using Fruity Loops. You're not a producer at all.
You're not producing.
You make beats. You make beats. At best, you make beats.
You're not producing,
right? But now it's completely normalized. That thing is happening right now, and it's going to happen much, much faster. It's going to happen in 3 years or 2 years as opposed to 10. Where you can sort of figure it out.
So then I guess my question is,
right?
Why are you helping this thing happen?
Because you can't stop the future, right? You can only be a part of it. You can sit there and be the guy that, oh man, like the good old days. But then that's when you realize you're the old motherfucker.
You don't want to get stuck.
You became the old guy in the room super quick because you're like, I'm committed to how I used to do things. And how you used to do things is never the best idea. It's how things are done, which is the best idea.
Motherfuckers love vintage, though.
They love vintage. I love vintage. I'm a nostalgic as a motherfucker, obviously.
I know you are.
I'm making shit with a fucking PlayStation 2 and a cable to scrambling. Yeah. But that doesn't mean that, hey, this other thing is intellectually, like, this is what it's going to be. Like, this is what's going to be the foundation, right? And so understanding it from a business standpoint, you have to understand that because everyone else that has hundreds of millions of dollars in their bank account and tens of millions of dollars in their bank account, they're going to understand, and you want to get there before they do, because they'll do it in the worst possible way, the lowest common denominator possible way, and it'll be lame as fuck. And you'll be forced to just ingest it.
Yeah, that's true.
That's what's happening now, right? You can
see
Walmart is, and you see sort of the little breadcrumbs of it, right? You see like SAG, like in the entertainment industry, you see like, oh man, a writer's strike and this thing.
Oh yeah,
that's for good reason because their day is done. What the fuck we need actors
for? No, it's true. I mean, a lot of people don't even remember what that was about. And it was literally over AI writing movies and things like that for people.
And it's inevitable.
And that's why everyone got on the writer's strike.
And those people that were
then they made legislation for it.
But that's not natural.
Which is weird to me. The legislation's weird.
I see AI as something you should use as a tool, not something that you should allow yourself to become or, things like that. Like there's reputable tools and uses for AI to make your job easier and to not do nominal stupid tasks. But I don't think something could just be AI. Like, yeah, I mean, and it actually makes art and being personable and being able to do things that are actually like cool yourself, like extra cool and maybe even like more, more expensive and valuable. If you really think of it that way, it's like, well, you could just use AI shit.
That term,
yeah.
Expensive.
Emo, yeah, you got he got a lot to say.
That resonates with me, man.
You know what's okay? I don't want to harp on this too much because it's your whole business, right? But like, it's interesting that you assume that creativity would continue in any traditional path if that path is destroyed in the near future.
That's the nature of creativity, I would argue. That is destroyed, right? Are you still doing canvas paintings? Because but not because that's the only way. When canvas painting was created and they were doing it, that was the only possible way I could express this particular thing.
Not at all.
There wasn't that many options.
I'll frame it this way. Before you walked in, me and Alex were having a conversation about music, and Alex says we're in the midst of a musical renaissance.
Yep.
And I told him we're in the midst of an artistic depression. But yet I feel like we're at the same point. And even to what you just said a second ago, the evolution of the producer from Quincy Jones to DJ Mustard does show some type of correlation between the depression of artistry and the accessibility into artistry. Hence why you can have a whole bunch of people getting into music at one time, but also not being in depth artistically into that same genre. I'm not saying that either one of these are a negative, but my question to you as someone who is creating a platform for people to completely remove themselves from the artistic process, do you think that these people will then become creative afterwards, or will they only rely on the tool?
So I think that's,
and I'm asking that in the Oppenheimer question. Are you creating a bomb, sir, or are you creating energy?
So I like that question a lot. I like that question a lot, but I think it is a loaded question because it made some assumptions. I don't think using a new tool is the death of artistry. That's like going to a photographer and saying, "Hey, Photoshop exists,"
or saying you're not a producer because you use Fruity Loops.
No,
it's the same. It's the same thing.
But when you're in it, you think about it. Oh, this is AI is something new and different. No, it's a better tool. Just like any other tool, it happens to be a relative to us. We're like, oh man, this shit is crazy. But your children. Look at you. Of course,
it's
of course
hand
we have
tools
this.
to power tools.
Exactly. So they'll make what you can make is going to be more complex and stand on the shoulders of all the giants that came before you. Right now, you're standing on the shoulders of giants that you don't even know. We didn't design these mics. No, we didn't design the software that's running them. We didn't design Ableton or Fruity Loops. We'll use it and pretend like, oh, we created something. And we did, but it's on the shoulders of things that most people that are using them don't understand. Not to say you guys don't understand it, but most people don't understand, right? And so this is how much logically different is, hey, we have and the thing, AI, that's a buzzword too. Really what they should call it is combined human intelligence. All AI is like, I'm training something to do shit that everyone already knows about.
Exactly. No, that's true.
It's a collection of algorithms.
It's not like some new shit for real. It's a new combination of shit that already exists.
Right.
That's created by humans. It's not something machine made. It's created by humans for real. So I would say it's not the death of creativity. It's the
advancement of
of the tools to execute creativity. So I'm saying I don't think it's an artistic depression. I'm sorry for that passage, Jay. I've been burning.
Burn on, baby. Burn on, baby.
I'm the worst.
Burning with good questions.
I'm the worst holder. I'm the worst holder of all time, and I'm still hitting it though. Damn.
That's all good. That's all good. So you lean on.
Plenty of
I haven't smoked heavy in a while. I'm sorry. This is great. This is phenomenal.
It's good weed. That's some lay orange.
Jesus Christ.
Lay orange.
But that's to answer your thing.
You don't
about
see it as a depression.
Okay. I see it as literally the complete and polar opposite. It is a revolution. It is a complete and utter revolution. It's a destruction of what existed before. It's an erosion of what existed before to something that is more complex.
We can disagree on complex, or we can disagree on the quality of complex.
I can show you 1,000 examples of things that would not even exist without the aid of new AI artistry. And maybe they will not objectively but they would take 100 years for the nigga to be born. That would make this thing that had the unique experiences and he grew up like this and this was his childhood and now he creates
like
this.
They say,
no.
If nobody taught you algebra, it'd take you 1,000 years to figure it out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you can figure it out.
You figure it out.
Exactly. And then you use it in real life like once and you're like, whoa, that shit happened to me. I was like, damn.
I use algebra
they were
all the
right.
time.
So artistic.
No, I mean, things are even deeper than algebra, but
it would take somebody long as fuck to create this, and this guy just made 50 of them just now, and it's all amazing. And does that? I think it's ego. Not I won't say ego. That's condescending in some ways, but I would say it's like there's like a pride of the artist that only I can create this. Or only I, not even that, it's only I can create this in this way. Right? If it's not made in this way, then it's not art. It's not even that it was created. They don't even care about the end result. The end result could be, you can make the most beautiful painting in the world. Yeah. Oh, I didn't create it in this. It wasn't created in this way, so it's not art.
Yeah.
Think about how illogical and nonsense that is.
I mean, that's the history of music, though. That's like
it is.
That's when we talk about we were talking about structures early, right? And we definitely want to get into your genre. Okay. But we talk about structures, right? So like jazz heads would be like, oh, if you don't play at this meter at this time with these chords, then you can't call this jazz. Champagne heads are like, oh, if you ain't get this from Champagne, then you can't call this champagne.
I agree.
You see what I'm saying?
I agree.
You see what I'm saying? So I feel like that has been
You're right.
The linear genealogy of how creativity happens.
Great way to say it.
So as I think about like the artistic depression, and I'm not sad about it. You know what I'm saying? It's just the earth, wind, and fire of it all. To the point you just made, Alex, is like, oh, that's something you can do. We could put that over here. Yeah. This is your Louis Vuitton bag over here. We can frame this in this nice little thing, but we about to make a whole house. Yeah. All right, and you still worried about this frame over here.
Yeah. That's real shit.
The way you described it is the genealogy. You know, I didn't really think about and consider that. To be honest, I'm be real. I didn't really consider that is important. You know, it's created in a particular way. Is definitely part of the art.
Yeah,
it's part of the art. It doesn't matter that I can create something using a different method. The genealogy of, hey, I'm executing it like this. That's almost like that process is, to me, when I think about art, I'll look at some shit and be like, how the fuck did they make that? And then I'll find out about how they made it, and that is artistry as well. So I don't want to discount that. That is a real thing, right? That is a real thing. So,
but even in the AI space and the human created spaces of algorithms collected, that's still a thing. I just think
in a different way, yeah.
The old, as you were saying, as we started this conversation, the old mindset is be like, oh, this made that, it's not art. Instead of being oh, this is that, that's beautiful.
Yes, the outcome.
Yeah.
The outcome.
So earlier, I spent probably 5 minutes explaining Phonk music to Vimo.
You didn't have to explain
by just playing bangers?
I was just explaining I spent a lot of time explaining Phonk
Tough
music
explanation.
So this is how I do it usually, right? Let me try it. All right. So first, I'll be like, hey, have you ever been on YouTube before and listened to a mix? And it's like, yeah. I'll be like, have you ever seen like a trapped out like Bart Simpson or something similar to that?
Yeah.
And probably 70% of the people who I talk to are like, yeah, I have. I'm like, okay. It's Trappin In Japan. That's Ryan Celsius. That's, the base level. But for me, because I wouldn't put you in a box of being a Phonk producer. You make a lot of different music. You mix a lot of different music into, what you're doing. But for me, Phonk is definitely influenced from that Houston, grimy, almost chopped and screwed, sound. And from the vocals to a lot of the beats that are layered over different things as well. It could, be mixing samples with that. And then, now I think the modern stuff has a lot of like more trap music and like modern, trap music that they're infusing. And then there's also, different layers here. There's DJ Smokey, which is completely different. And sometimes he's playing like UKG or, he's like putting out UKG tracks or like garage. So it's like, it's weird. It gets very freeform. So that's me butchering it, I think. But yeah, I would love to hear from you, bro. Like, what is this crazy thing called Phonk? PHONK.
Yeah. Music. So from the mud, so I'll say there's two definitions right now. There's a current definition, right, and not even what I would call the mainstream, but it has those numbers. But sort of the funk that came into popularity sort of more recently, which is a bit different than the funk that was generated during the time of those early mixtapes, like the Trappin In Japan, etc. For me, it wasn't, to be honest, like the idea of the genre names, it's like flashback to 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016. During that time, the idea of genre names was almost a complete meme, in terms of internet shit, because no one's listening to internet shit except for producers, like heads, people that are looking for it. It's not like random people are finding internet music. And so the genre names were just being evolved. Like Vaporwave had just sprung up, and then in 2008, 9 or whatever, now it's evolving into like 70 subgenres. People are naming shit whatever, and people are just going with it in those communities. So funk in general is such a community created thing that the idea of it's one specific sound, even trying to have a question where what is this one thing, that's like part of the joke almost.
Oh, got you.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, it's like that's almost like part of the joke. You can say, well, it's inspired by 3 6 Mafia, Memphis, Houston, Chopped and Screw, DJ Screw, DJ Zerk. You could say DJ Paul. These people are definitely influences in many of the sounds within that genre, but not all of them. And so it's almost like how Vaporwave was more of like an ironic, like bullshit joke that turned into a genre and it became vibey and interesting. Like funk is like not so like ironic or anything weird like that. It's more just like, yo, this is these combinations, things we fuck with it, and we might add some more shit. We might do this.
So what's the combination for you?
For me, the combination is an understanding of the low end. You know what I mean? Any funk music is not. I mean, there's the low end has to be understood. You know, so in terms of bass progression and all of those patterns and those things, every funk track will have a sort of mild dedication or a strong dedication to the idea of the low end. It matters, right? And it matters on an almost nostalgic level, to where there's some like what I call like dirt or like gritty Memphis funk, where all of the 808s are completely distorted out to mimic the feeling of being in a car where the fucking trunk is.
Shake the ground.
In a Crown Vic where the motherfucking trunk is like about to pop off.
No, I was noticing that earlier.
You know, so you get like that, and it's like, like in a regular song, you'd be like, what the fuck is this? But in the context of this experimental genre, we can sort of do those things. So funk will have things like that interspliced within it, right? These ideas of like, let's just distort this shit for the sake of putting you in a space that you're listening to the shit on a dirty fucking piece of shit tape that's about to pop into your fucking car.
Very true.
And that and so it has a vibiness to it by design, and that's hard for people to describe.
So when I get the lo-fi or the vibey feel, it gives me like relaxation. Why choose these intersections of music as like a vehicle for like a vibe, for like a chill? What in your experience,
my experience,
feels like that's the most appropriate genre for this thing to happen? Because you could have done anything. You could have chopped and screwed some Britney Spears like they were doing in 2015. Like that shit was on
terrible.
Exactly. You just chop and screw everything now, right? But like there was speaking of. It may be.
Yeah, shit. I'm starting thinking that.
But at least that's a decision that you made based on those things. So tell me about that decision process of like using those particular musical intersections to express funk.
Yeah, for me, so I can't speak for the genre at scale, but I can speak for me.
Of course.
It's very literal, you know. So I'm living in Maryland, Southern Maryland, DC area. You know,
Southern Maryland,
growing up, PG County, right? So I go to school at PG. I went to Oxon Hill High School.
Oh, Oxon Hill!
Yeah, so
that's,
now at the MGM, that's crazy. National Harbor South, that's crazy.
Yeah, it wasn't motherfucking National Harbor then.
Yeah,
you know,
but it's crazy.
Crazy. But it was cool, and so I lived there. So I had all this influence of you got go-go, you got. At that time, the way hip hop was respected was weird to me because it was like basically like nobody fucked with Southern hip hop in the DMV. They might try to rewrite the history books like everybody was fucking with, but they weren't. Like motherfuckers looked at me weird when I had an Outkast CD.
3-6 Mafia was really like as far as and I was weird for listening to that. Really, I would say
this is like mid '90s, so like people look at that shit like, oh you.
Yeah, you on some crazy.
Yeah, why aren't you listening to Jay-Z? Who's the best rapper? Is it Tupac or Big? Like no one else exists. At that time, like radio stations were super polarized.
Oh, they were. They were controlled even like more so than ever. I mean, I don't listen to radio much, but like it used to be crazy back then.
It was wild. Like you go to a different city.
There wasn't social media, so like the radio was like motherfuckers are pumping money into this.
Like if you go to a different city, the radio play would be way different. To me, that was more exciting. Now it's like everything's kind of
respect to have your song playing in a different city. You either had to have a lot of money or a lot of respect.
Yeah,
that was like how it.
So I'm living in DMV, but all my family lives in Florida, South Florida. In Atlanta. So we would go down for summer vacation to visit the cousins and shit. And the radio stations, as we were driving down, would be crazy different. Yeah, like I wouldn't hear no Jay-Z songs when I'm in South Carolina. I'm hearing all types of other shit. I'm hearing niggas that I never. This on the radio.
Yeah,
I'm going. Who are the Ghetto Boys?
I'm hearing like Ghetto Boys.
Who the fuck is this?
I'm hearing Pastor Troy. 8 Ball, MJG. I'm like, they don't play this in Maryland. No. That's not gonna be on the radio. I'm not hearing Bun B. I'm not hearing UGK. But shit, you going to Florida at that time? I'm hearing Trick Daddy. I'm hearing Trina. I'm hearing all this stuff that live. Wasn't. You wouldn't hear it.
Yeah.
You wouldn't hear it until maybe it got popular and went to MTV.
Exactly. I think the only
maybe.
One of the only songs I could think of would be like International Players Anthem. That was the only song I could really think of.
And that was so transformative.
Yeah, like
that. They like people looked at UGK completely differently.
Oh yeah, that's like their
International Players Anthem and Big Pimpin' came out. Mm-hmm. They looked at obviously they saw. It was just incredible. I'm thinking of Big Pimpin'. When you said International Players Anthem, I immediately think of those two tracks as similar in how they were constructed from an A&R standpoint.
Oh,
you take you combine multiple elements.
Yeah.
That at
That's
first
the fun of it all.
It's a Jay-Z in the South play.
exactly, and
Jay-Z
then
in the South play.
the International Blaze Anthem. You have a lot of South. But you have different sections of the South because Outkast and
That's one thing, and
UGK
do different
had only collabed like one other time before and shit, and that wasn't no single. And so you have like this whole thing. You have that Project Pat 3-6 sample.
Oh my God!
I mean, you have like these elements that are all, and to me, they were all the South. But everyone else, these are different things. We know Outkast from fucking Sorry Miss Jackson and blah blah blah. And now you have this, so that's why I kind of connected them immediately.
Gotcha.
But to me, that's funk.
Yeah.
Right? It's connecting these dots between different sounds and putting them together and producing things that provide a vibe, a snapshot of what was, but also your own unique feel to it.
Okay.
So to me, that's super abstract and weird. But listen, anybody else will just say, it's Memphis this and blah, 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 and cowbell, 808 cowbell. But, like living through the creation of this thing from
you can
nothing
always reduce it to the thing, but like
you can. And
to your point, it's also your connection to these moments in combination that create a different sound.
To me.
Gotcha.
So I can't speak on it for like, what it's supposed to be because now I work in the industry doing marketing, digital marketing. So I understand the hashtags and the SEO, and we need to call it something so that Spotify can make an official fucking playlist for it.
But that's
which is really
kind of the
how it
opposite of
happened.
the point.
But at the same time, it's like the opposite and what's necessary.
So
If we don't do that part, then it will die.
Like this is true.
Yeah.
This is
And that's unacceptable too, right?
Like,
I mean, that's unacceptable. It has to go mainstream. It has to go big because we can't afford for this sound to die.
Okay.
For you, I mean, for me, as someone that wants it to live, everything else is and by die, I mean the lack of significant amount of people dedicating themselves to innovation within a community or space.
Okay.
So when something doesn't have that, then it means it's dead to me.
Yeah.
And I mean to everyone, right? This community is dead. No one's fucking with this game. No one's fucking with this idea. It's kind of dead. Like there's like 5 people that make shit, and they might be geniuses, but even then, like it's unlikely in my lifetime that I'll experience this random thing now.
Yeah, I got you.
So
if I'm not directly looking for it, so like a word dump, but
no, I heard what you're saying.
Yeah.
That's really interesting, especially coming from the DMV. Earlier we were talking about, how it was a lot harder, in around the 2010s, collaborating with people, finding like-minded people who were doing cool shit like that. Once that kind of switch flipped and people started working together and, there were more shows here. It was kind of a musical renaissance. We had different artists, who were actually like coming up and getting out of the city. I really think that it's interesting that you got to this point being from, exactly where you're from. So like, how did you get into making music? Like being around all these different influences, like what you're doing now, I feel like is something that I rarely meet people around this area kind of, doing. So was there like influences around you, or was there something like outside just being on the internet, or?
I think it was really more because I was always a musician. I played piano, classical piano, for many years as like a child and all the way through, obviously, I guess whenever. So I would compose a lot of things. So in terms of just, creating music in general, I was always connected with sound, and also I loved movies as a child. I loved scores. Like I'm the weirdo. Like if we're in the theater, we're sitting through the credits, bro. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. We're seeing because I want to hear that whole score that they're gonna play out, and all of that and everything. And that's how I kind of, started with music. That's what it meant to me. Like it had like an emotional. It told a story. It had an emotional impact because like classical shit is, it's not ultimate. It's pretty repetitive in many ways, but there's a lot of improvisation, and then later jazz, of course, is mainly a lot of that. The idea of improvisation is sort of capitalized, and so music for me started with all of that stuff. But it wasn't until like college when there's a guy working at University.
What college?
University of Maryland, College Park. The Terps. There's a guy, Kevin Alexander, who was working at the radio station I became friends with. We became great. We're still great friends. And he was like mixing vocals for artists. Mm-hmm. And, I played instruments, but I never had been involved in production. Like in a booth and all that stuff. And, I'm like learning what he's doing, and he's using like a big 32 channel whatever controller at the time, and the guy in the booth, and he's just operating. I think it was no, it wasn't Logic. I think it was Pro Tools, early Pro Tools. He's using that. He's just like breaking it down. He's like, oh yeah, so this is how this works, and blah blah blah, and this is hotkeyed, and this is this, and this is this, and I was a very technical guy. I was in school for computer science, computer engineering. So I was very technical, and even though I played music, I kind of like, everyone taught me, hey, you got to decide one of these things, like, oh, you want to go to college, like, you want to be a starving artist, or you want to fucking go to do computer science and do some Bill Gates shit or something, make a bunch of money when you come out. I was like, oh, well, okay. I think
money it is.
Money it is, and, so shit. So when I saw him, in the studio, I realized, like, all of it's connected because he's using this piece of software, and I could already tell you talking about plugins, and I was like, damn, what if they made a plugin to do this and do that? You could do, and I started to realize the connection between tech and music. You're a producer, you want to produce. Maybe you're limiting yourself by thinking, I need to just do this. Put yourself in one role. So it showed me, okay, let me do whatever I want to do, and then make it make sense at some point.
It's so beautiful as you come from instrumentation. I played the saxophone for like 17 years.
Oh, dope.
So I know that feeling.
I know 17 years. You told me this once that you played the saxophone, but not for 17 years.
Let it go.
Seems like should be more than one.
There's a different feeling from producing something that comes from your body out of this instrument and stepping into something and interfacing with that technology. It's a completely different thing. Even performing, it's a completely different. It's a completely different feeling, and I love that you come from that. So I guess like talk to me about your technology journey. So after you see your man's in the radio station, what's the first thing you buy? What's how you start getting that itch for? Okay, I got to transform from just the keys to I have to get a keyboard now.
I immediately go back to the dorm room. And I go on Kazaa, which is
I remember Kazaa.
Kazaa. I download every fucking audio software that exists. They have Reason, cracked Reason, cracked all the early Fruity Loops one, whatever. I'm like, fuck it, I don't know what this shit is. I'm downloading all of it. This video editor. I downloaded and pirated everything as much as I could because I was like, what the fuck are people doing? They're like, this is a 3D modeling app. Fuck it, let me download that because he's sitting there and they're making the music sound is so incredible too. That's the main thing. Like he's recording these things. I'm like, and I'm hearing the artist sing. I'm like, this sounds good. And he mixes it. It sounds incredible.
Right. We had another artist on here in our first episode.
Okay.
And I asked him a very pivotal question.
Okay.
It's the crux of our conversation.
It's the highlight.
This is it right here.
This one has
so much
subtitles
pressure.
Across.
Yeah. What's your relationship with Luther Vandross?
There's a Luther Vandross song I heard in the airport, which was, I didn't realize it was the actual inspiration for a Gangsta Pat song. And it tripped me out. It's dope. And it's like, it's incredible. Like, check it out. It's an incredible song. And I heard that, I love that song. But I thought it was just like a down south, like, like OG song. I was just bumping it for a long time. And then I'm in the airport and I hear Luther Vandross. And he hit, the melody is the exact same.
It's exactly the same.
He does the whole thing. I hear his thing is called Invincible by Luther Vandross.
Wait a minute.
Luther Vandross created all this underground shit.
Yeah, he created all that shit.
So that's my relationship.
That's your relationship with Luther Vandross?
Yes.
I asked that question because in my perspective of what I call it, the artistic depression, I see a distance from melody.
Interesting.
And I know that you come from a musical background, and I loved how you talk about how funk is about the understanding of the low end. Talk to me. That's why I asked you about Luther Vandross. Talk to me about your relationship with melody.
I think melody is everything, and I think within funk music, there's definitely a focus on, specifically within melody, the hypnotic sort of melody. So sometimes it'll be. This
bring Hypnotic to the show next time.
See if we can. Okay, well, let's create something that has flexibility.
Right.
Feel me? And so within funk, like melody, and I think the idea of the switch up whether it's the drum programming or the raw melody or whatever the vocal. The idea of that, I think, is at its core, and that's why I like longer mixes, because you see that a single is a single, and but a longer mix, so a lot of times I'll demonstrate that I'll have the same sample, but it's two different, vocals, two different drum patterns, and it will be back to back in a mix, and people are like, oh, that it's just one song or whatever, but it's not. It's like 2 or 3 songs that are already the combination of 3 or 4 sons.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so you have this like combination of things to like give people a layer of depth into what they're hearing. Where they at first you're like, okay, this is pretty fire. This Kodak Black with the trap, okay, and then okay, boom, the bass line, okay, cool, and then this, and then that, and then this, and it's Quavo, okay, interesting, right. Okay, well, and there's this, and there's that, okay, cool, and then they're just wandering along. They're not thinking too deep.
Is so important too.
Yeah,
it's just when you're blending all those genres, it's really interesting to see how you like jump back and forth between them, and it still seamlessly works.
Yeah.
And like you're saying, bringing all of those things together really makes funk as a genre. But my one question is, how do you get around the sampling, thing with other distribution platforms? Or digital streaming platforms, I should say. It's weird that these things are on like Spotify and like Apple Music, and
there's 2 aspects to it. So initially I was working in software, but then I guess I still work in software. I work for right now a company called Amuse. They're a distribution platform based out of Stockholm, Sweden.
Okay.
And they were a small startup, in 2018, 2017, and now they've eclipsed many of the larger distribution platforms. You may be familiar with like TuneCore, DistroKid, etc.
Yeah, I use video.
Right. So Amuse is, it's one of the primary platforms. And so there's 2 ways to answer the question. So one way is when I was just a YouTuber, I'm just making YouTube videos. Mm-hmm. Getting around copyright, that was a science, because there's 2 things we have to deal with. One is like the vast majority of people don't care at all. They have their stuff audio fingerprinted and whatever, and YouTube automatically detects video or audio
content ID.
Right, content ID, and it acts however it acts. People that have set this all up, they're completely disconnected from the outcome. Right, most of the time. So the way I got around that is I understand from a technology standpoint how they're detecting certain things within a video, so I could functionally like avoid content ID and things like that, the fingerprinting, because I knew the technology, how it was used. So, and this is like a trippy technical thing, but you can tell if you watch some of my videos that I edit, there's certain things that are done purely for the fact that it results in the video being completely undetectable by copyright. There's like things like that, because ultimately, like, I'm sure the film studio would be fine, like, whatever. Like, if I could get a contact with like Warner Brothers and be like, yo, I want to use this to make this video on YouTube and draw hundreds of millions of streams to like this movie y'all made that you want to do some merchandise
to get
for
it back,
boom.
they just upload an agreement. You just upload an agreement that says this and that, like that's fine. Essentially, it could be super basic, and then it just goes away.
It's called a whitelist agreement.
Yeah, so exactly. Right, because they need a whitelist on their side of things with the distribution. Yeah.
So I started doing things like that to avoid copyright on YouTube.
Yeah.
I would like set up agreements and do whitelist stuff, and I would obviously modify the videos and the audio to be to the state. That's how slow and reverb tracks really exist now, because that was the thing you would do. Think about it. I don't know if you remember, like, even as early as like 2012, it didn't get fixed till like maybe 2015 for real. But like if an album came out, like someone posts on YouTube and it would just slow down.
They just slow
or sped up a little bit.
I'm hip.
And they couldn't figure the shit out or whatever. Then eventually they did.
I'm hip. People still do that on SoundCloud.
And that's why it's
or they give it like an amount of silence before, and then
and it's like those methods became
nostalgia, baby.
You know what I mean? Like now people listen to that shit. But it's nostalgia from when they used to listen and pirate it. So it's like that's what modern
I remember LimeWire, FrostWire, all that.
So it's like but for the distribution side, so that's the YouTube side, avoiding copyright, all that stuff, because I feel like it's better forgiveness than permission. Yeah, because 100%. Ultimately,
I always say that
when it wins, then everybody wins. And that's really the goal of all expressing all these things anyway. On the distribution side, it's a little bit more tricky, because you have these you have the DSPs, you have the stores, right? Like a Spotify, iTunes, Apple Music, Tidal, Audiomack, etc. Right, and so the distributor is delivering those to the stores, right? And so the stores and the distributors, they have their own agreements between each other, right? And those agreements include things like, like you can't let people upload a Drake track and it's not Drake. That's what the stores are telling distributors. So if, say like DistroKid or like a Muse example, we handle this very well. So say a Muse uploads a track and it's a Drake track, and it gets to Spotify, and Spotify gets all these claims and reports from Drake's team to take this down. That's gonna be a negative for the distributors. It affects their rating, so to speak.
Yeah.
And that could affect their whatever their business model is, right? So the distributors themselves typically are influenced to avoid and automatically detect copyrighted things. So using a Webby instrumental. I just upload a Webby track, like probably the distributors will detect that automatically and say, hey, you can't do this shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so the way you get around that is, you ask people for permission. You say, hey, listen, I'm uploading this track and it has your vocal. Hopefully you respond to this fucking email, and we can put this out together or whatever. Yeah. And it's not a feature. This is this community and this is what's happening. And I'm not generating this much money off of it or whatever. And what do you can have a percentage or whatever you want to do, and let's just fucking go. And
that's
sometimes
crazy.
people respond and say, fuck it, let's go and do it.
That's very interesting because a lot of the bass music and genres that are adjacent to that, I always tell them, like, you got to do something for, like, these vocals, like, that you're ripping. Because it's just, like, that's why real rappers don't want to work with these producers.
Yeah.
Like, actually make songs with them. It's like, there's not even a credit or nothing, like.
That's the culture. That's the culture of that.
Yeah, damn.
That's crazy.
That's really interesting, man. So Trappin In Japan specifically, it's interesting that, I went back into your YouTube and saw that, before you were just kind of reposting cool music, it looked like, or, flipping it too. But there were a lot of, artists like East Ghost and like Win32.
Win32.
And all these people, so
I think he's a DMV guy too.
Yeah, he is. I know. I texted him today because I see his shit. I was like, I'm going to text Win32. Because I remember like back so long ago. Yeah, I think I met him off like Twitter,
Dope.
But cool. Yeah, he's a DMV cat. Like, how did Trappin Japan actually get to be what it was, or like where did the idea come from? Because before it looked like it was a lot of, more so the cool music that you're finding, flipping things, and then eventually you make the switch, probably 6 years ago or so, with the Trappin Japan mixes.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. I think the idea came, there was a mix before. I think Trappin In Japan came eventually, or not even eventually, it was pretty quick. It was like in one particular week, to be honest. I had been building the channel pretty well, I guess. In terms of this idea, I wanted to upload a new track from an underground artist every day. Because I love Majestic Casual, Mr. Suicide Sheep. Yeah. These are like those OG like YouTube promotion channels that, just existed in a space where people were like, well, what do we even call this? Like, no one was doing anything like that, really, which is a weird thing, I guess. But no one was doing that. So people didn't even understand what it was. They're like, oh, this is just reposting music, or this is this, or they didn't have any context of what it was. And I liked an aspect of that because these platforms got so large, but they were like completely faceless. And at that time, there's this idea that to be on YouTube, you're like blogging or some weird shit that I didn't really care about, but like, what about music? I think these things are like the coolest things ever, so let me make one and use it as an excuse to find new music every day, and put in that effort to, okay, let me find something because I need to post it. And so I did that, for years and years and years, and was just posting whatever. It wasn't necessarily funk.
You ever been to Japan?
Yes.
You've been to Japan?
Yeah. I went to Japan for
I knew it.
About 3 weeks. I did a show in Japan. Yeah.
Okay.
I did an underground show in and what was that? That was in Shibuya.
Was there a good turnout? Because I heard it's like hit or miss out there.
It's all hit. I mean, in Japan, everything is
everything's hit.
Listen, all the shit I'm doing trapping in Japan.
Yeah, of course.
I have an obsession with it, but how it looks in the videos and how it feels, man, I would say it exceeded my expectations. Like it's better than the vibe that I'm portraying. I feel like, damn, I need to do a better job almost of portraying like just the vibe you get of like walking around a city, going to a spot. Like even like you mentioned the music thing. Like when I went there, I didn't know what it was going to be. The setup was a little bit janky. Guy was like, "Oh, you're in Tokyo. I love Trappin in Japan. You know, like let's make it work, buddy. Let's do it, man." And he came through. It was an actual club. But it was like very small.
Was this just through the DM type?
Like through the DMs.
Yeah, I bet.
I'm in Japan and some guy, you know, but then we ended up meeting up. He's a great guy, phenomenal, dope guy.
Yeah, there's some good promoters out there. I've definitely heard hit or miss stories of the Japan thing. It's different.
Yeah, the money side was fucked up, but who cares? You know, they were like, you know, well, whatever. You know what I mean? I was like, I don't even need to be paid. Like, it's the coolest shit ever. You know, like there was a turnout. About 70. It was like a 70 cap venue, like a small cramped thing. And I was like, man, do people know what this is? And then the 3 DJs before me were just so fucking incredible. There was this old Japanese dude, bald head. He was wearing like a pink sweater, and he was mixing like a godlike R&B set, like. Godlike. Like I was like, what the fuck is he? Oh my god! Like he's going so deep. There's like SWV and then this and that, and then I'm like,
there's some Luther Vandross so that I can feel I can taste it.
He had Luther vocals over like what is it?
Is that cornbread?
Feels good. What was it like that? Oh man, Tony. He had like Luther Vandross vocals over Tony instrumental. I said, what the fuck is this guy doing? And they were going. Then there's this chick that played like a vaporwave set, like super down, like video game music, like straight up.
Is that how you'd explain vaporwave? Because I would explain it as like 80s computer music mixed with like what would be cool now.
Kind of, yeah. It's a combination
like 80s,
of those things.
You know, I don't know. That's just I might butcher that, but
no. Like so, Japan, incredible, loved it. You know, better than I could have imagined. You gotta stay there for months. I feel to really get the
stay
full
there for
experience.
months.
I was
the only thing is you can't smoke weed there though.
Well, you can, but you know.
What do you mean? Yeah, you can.
Yeah, I smoked weed in Japan. You know,
you smoked weed in Japan.
Yes, but I mean, it was obvious it was highly illegal. Like, you know.
Yeah. No, I smoke in every country I go to. You know, also, but I would be a little Japan. That's why I would go to Thailand because they have legal weed there. But Japan, I've heard that
it's very dangerous.
It's like what? I think it's a fine, and I think
that's 3 years.
It's 5 years if you get caught with possession, and then if you were actually if you were selling it or creating it, I think it's 7. And then I don't know what the yen to USD conversion is, but I think I looked it up earlier. It's like 3 million or more yen.
It's like $500,000.
Yeah,
it's like $500,000 probably.
So, and I heard it's like 100 a gram or so. What like? Is there like a good price that you got this shit for? Because my homie was just in Japan last week and he said people were like, "Yeah, I could get you weed," but he's like, "Nah, bro." He went to snowboard, so
that's
he
dope.
was just doing that.
That's dope.
But yeah, how much do they charge for that shit? Like,
I don't know. It was gratis. You know,
it was damn. That's even crazier because that shit. But what I've heard also is, if you were to smoke weed, they would never notice because nobody knows what weed smells like because nobody's ever
That's
smoked.
Interesting.
You know what I mean?
That's very interesting.
You know what I mean? Like, if you don't know what weed is.
That's very interesting, yeah.
Like, ever. Like, this is... Nobody has... you've never had a cloud of weed hit your face.
That's true, yeah. They would be
You've never smoked it.
Sounds like a bad life.
I didn't consider that at the time.
Yeah.
But
Was it good weed?
No.
Of course not. Yeah, I've heard that. They got that Miggs Bush weed.
No.
Yeah.
Of course not.
Reginald.
Of course.
Yeah.
Reginald Fairfield.
But it's like you don't even need to be high. I mean, it's just so like beautiful. Like the time I was there, it was a red moon.
Oh wow.
So
That's crazy.
In Japan, it's on Halloween.
Of course it is.
2022. It's a fucking red moon. The street is full of everyone in like, I guess you'd call it just Halloween costumes, but it's like ridiculous. Like it's so packed. So it's shoulder to shoulder in the city, walking through the city.
Yeah.
The street, the sidewalk, whatever it is. It's like you're shoulder to shoulder. There's street food there. It's fucking anime on the big screen, and everything's bright and neon. It's like I was like, damn, this shit is really what it is.
Yeah. Wow.
It was trippy, you know. So love Japan. Magical.
Okay.
So I think it was worth doing Trappin in Japan because
you're trapping in Japan.
the aesthetic, and I've been trapping in Japan, you know.
Yeah, you trapping in Japan.
It was worth it, I would say. It was the right move.
Damn. Tell me more about your label. You didn't really, that and just the whole end of Underground, Phonk Around and Find Out, that whole tour. How does the label kind of tie in with that and what's happening with like live music and funk music right now? Because, I mean, that's how I really met you and was reintroduced to your music was the Head Nod show in Baltimore.
Yep.
I believe it was a beautiful summer day.
Or the opposite of that, yeah.
Yeah.
Or I think it rained and like people couldn't make it. Power went out.
Really, the same shit happened at the DC show, but people still came because apparently it was raining like
it was crazy
pissing cats and dogs. But anyways, whenever I go to Baltimore, I go to 8x10. I always there's that taco window, and you don't want to eat any of that red sauce because they ain't no fire sauce, bro. That shit. Every time you eat that, and then you come back to the club. Motherfuckers will be like, oh, you had the red sauce on. Because it's like when your eyes start watering, your ears start ringing type. Like, yeah, that shit's crazy. But they have great tacos that, I'm talking about.
That dangerous sauce.
Yeah, the dangerous sauce.
8x10. Shout out to 8x10.
Yeah. But,
shout out to the niggas that go back into the club.
I did.
God damn.
It was crazy.
You are strong, brother.
Yeah. That shit's wild.
Yeah, talk to us about the label, man.
Yeah, so the label, I created it in 2019. Once I joined the distribution company, I began to understand what distribution was and how it worked and how I could utilize it to really build something without needing a bunch of extra resources. So now that I had a direct plug with the distribution, I understood it. I said, okay, well, all these artists I'm putting on my YouTube channel, like, what are they asking me for, really? They're like, yo, like, basically, like, put me on, right? And so to me, what that really means is, like, make sure that they have a pathway to some sort of financial success so that they can further their creative endeavor.
Yeah.
That's how I interpret, hey, repost my track. That's what that means when someone says that to me, right? So I said, okay, well, what's the best way I could serve this idea and increase my understanding of business? So I said, okay, let me make my own label. Mm-hmm. So I started the label, had distribution. I started finding artists that I respected and putting them on the label, releasing their tracks. We work together on aspects of it. I do the artwork, I mix it, or they master it, or they do the whole thing, and then I do the videos or whatever. And it became this collaborative effort between me and all these underground artists. And so I was doing this like once every Friday. And then after the first 7 months, I decided, okay, let's do a release every Tuesday and Friday. So the first 4 years of the label, I was releasing a new project from myself and artists that I was bringing on actively on the label every Tuesday and every Friday. Wow. So Tuesday you have a single, Friday you got an album. Next Tuesday you got a little EP from somebody super experimental. Since 2023. I slowed down in 2023 and towards the end of 2022 to really hyper focus on some other things. But,
so from what start point to now?
So from 2019 to now,
okay.
I would say it's been like constant releases, at least every Friday. There's shit coming out this Friday, or today rather. I guess it came out today rather. You get so scatterbrained sometimes.
Is that End of Underground recap?
So then, So that's the whole thing. So the label is not necessarily the End of Underground yet. The idea is to bridge these things together. The idea of the End of Underground was that there were no tours for funk artists. There was never a funk tour. It never existed. No one's trying to do it. You just play into venues. They're like, oh, a bunch of producers of what? Is it EDM? And we're like, no. Fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here. What
As the guy selling it, I say Jason. I'm like, it's EDM Jason. And they're like, is it rap? I'm like, it's rap Jason.
And it's like,
fuck with me. Like, come on. Give me money.
Now you just looking at it.
There's a struggle there, but I had some great guys on my team, Milkmaid, or his name's Jason. He helped me develop this idea of the End of Underground, which would be a tour.
Milkmaid is crazy.
Yeah, Milkmaid. So that we would go and do all these city tours, and we would bring all the guys from all the actual funk sets. Holy Mob, Always Proper. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Shout out St. Pond. Bad Kids, Good People.
Absolutely. Purple Posse, Back When. Anocalypse. We were like, yo, let's go on tour and take all these motherfuckers with us and like really do it for real, because we got to make it ourselves. No one's gonna finance this shit. Let's connect the dots. So we connected the dots. Did the first ever sort of funk tour with all of what I think the greats within the genre. The motherfuckers running Holy Mob, right? Von Storm, he's DJing there. We got Anocalypse, Buffalo, New York, all that whole area with his unique style. Holding it always proper. We got Ponsuda. We got guys within the realm of funk that are, to me, the OGs of what we've been doing. And maybe no one understands yet, but this shit's for the history books. Like, this shit,
exactly.
In my mind, like we did some shit that's and so the End of Underground was bred from let's create that thing. So we executed, had the branding and everything, and it's like the end of everything being in the underground and it like coming up, but it's sort of like, all hail the king is dead, like long live the king sort of situation.
Yeah, it's not like this is going commercial. It's like this is here. It's here to stay. This is what it is. You're finding it.
Exactly. And then the cycle continues.
Yeah, do with it.
Like this is the underground and now this is not the underground. We rinse and repeat.
Exactly,
and innovation is what matters. Mm-hmm. So that's the idea of the End of Underground, the tour and all that. And then the idea is like, I'm going to release a Trappin In Japan, End of Underground, like release on major platforms like Spotify, etc. And it's going to be all the artists that I brought on tour with me that performs at all the different spots.
Smart.
Like the Trappin In Japan like album.
Yeah.
Like proper album, not just the YouTube shit, in terms of how it's distributed, and have it be legit and everything cleared, everything straight, and it really hit. And to me, that's like vitally important, from an A&R standpoint, because it's probably what I do now, but from production and like just strategy standpoint and a creative standpoint. Like I think that would be the coolest shit. You know what I mean?
No, I do too.
I'm a huge fan. I'm just a big ass fan that's doing a bunch of stuff. That's what people don't realize. I'm just a huge ass fan, motherfucker.
No, and that's how it's got to be. It's like I always say that with what I do. I do the artist management thing, music licensing. It's like I'm just a music
big ass fan.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter that it's my job. I think it makes it easier for me to do my job because it's actually authentic and organic. Mm-hmm. I just love music. That's why you're here.
Yeah.
We're here for a lot of reasons.
That's what makes it a heartbreaking affair. That's what makes like working in music heartbreaking, is that you have passion for it. Mm. And then when it escapes you, it's like, fuck, I didn't quite.
Well, yeah, shout out Phonk Around and Find Out.
Oh yeah, Phonk Around and Find Out as well. Corey from there, he's really doing great things. At the time I met him at Black Box in Denver.
Oh yeah, it's a cool venue.
And I would say, I had shows before then, of course, but I had a show that headlined at San Diego. But this was the first show that it was like I was a headliner at the show, and they had the name up on the wall.
Yeah,
and I was like, oh shit! Right? Wow, this is a real wow.
Yeah, shout out Nicole too at Black Box.
Doing the design, all that shit, killing it. So for me, like that was super cool. That was super important. So what Corey had set up there, and that show was all heads. It was people that they knew all the stuff already. They were there to see that specific thing, and I was able to deliver that specific thing. And for from a promotion standpoint, from just execution standpoint, I feel like that's a rare thing to set up. Like everyone that came to the show is there for this thing. Yeah. Right. Either you're we get a certain level of popularity, I guess. Like you're Beyonce. Yeah, everyone's there for Beyonce concert. But you're talking about underground. Shit,
yeah, even like real underground,
like everyone being there, like for oh man, this is the thing, and that was the energy in Denver, and that Corey had fostered with the community he built with Phonk Around and Find Out.
Yeah, because they're out of Denver, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and he had continued to build that brand around doing these funk sets every week for weeks and weeks and weeks.
Yeah, and that's how you gotta do it. Just keep going with the weeklies. Keep hitting it.
So much respect to what he built with Phonk Around and Find Out.
Outro us out, host.
Re-up Alex.
It's B-Mo.
Ryan Celsius.
Yeah.
We did it. Yeah, we did it.
All right, man. Appreciate you, brother.
All right, my brother.
Thank you. Thanks for listening, y'all. If you get a chance to subscribe, like, download, and follow, we really appreciate it. You can find us on Instagram at the Re-Up ODCAST. You can also find us on Patreon for exclusive content. New episodes every other Thursday. Thanks for your trust. Appreciate y'all.